Wednesday, June 15th, 2011. Welcome back to another edition of the Daily Dizzle. Tommy Dizzlemits is here as always. As we said yesterday, today we're going to start breaking down the summer blockbuster season so far. Kind of give you an idea how the movies that have come out have been performing, because summer is the time where most movies are coming out. The most money is being spent on the movies to make them in hopes that you're going to actually shell out money for them. This year seems to be a little bit of an off year, between the first couple months of the year just not being as successful at the box office as last year when Avatar was still alive and kicking, and the summer kind of being off to a little bit weaker of a start than expected. It's looking like you're probably not going to have as huge of a summer lucrative season as for years previous, but there's still some success stories to be had. Most years past, studios have done what they could to bump the opening weekend of May to possibly the end of April to see if they can get another big blockbuster movie out. There's been some very, very mixed results. I mean, about a decade ago, the first real movie to try that was The Scorpion King. And though it didn't do business like the rest of the Mummy series, it still did enough to show that, hey, if you show some decent movies in April, people will still go see them ahead of the summer blockbuster season. You've also had years, though, where like XXX2 State of the Union is released on that last April weekend, and they attempt to be like, well, it's a big blockbuster because it's based on XXX, but we didn't get the star of Vin Diesel. A lot of the failures of potential franchises can actually rest on the shoulders of Vin Diesel. That's why it was very interesting when Fast and Furious came out years ago, shattered the April opening weekend record, and Vin Diesel was actually in it. Who knew that he can actually draw power when he actually is in a movie? This year, Fast 5 ended up pretty much being the first movie to officially set the summer blockbuster season as the end of April. Ended up opening to $85 million when it opened, which is the biggest weekend for a non-summer, non-Disney movie ever. If you're looking at just car-based movies in general, Fast 5, as of now, with over $200 million, which it might not make too much more than that. Fast and Furious movies burn out really quickly, but to even open at $80 million and then still cross $200 million is a feat that wasn't expected. And if you look at it compared to any other movies featuring cars, the animated movie Cars is the only thing that surpasses its gross so far. So even though it had a built-in audience and everything like that, and it was expected to be a blockbuster, it still shattered expectations even further so than people were looking for it to do. Weekend after, you had Thor, which is the official kickoff of the summer season, but everyone knew, despite the fact that it was in the same spot that another Marvel movie, Iron Man, was in, it wasn't going to be doing that same business. It wasn't going to be doing $100 million on its opening weekend, especially with another movie having just opened successfully right before it. But Thor still did open to over $65 million. Right now it's sitting at around 175 by the time everything is said and done from its theater run. So it made back its budget of $150 million despite not being as lucrative as, say, a Batman or a Superman or a Spider-Man. But Marvel's doing a different thing where people aren't expected to go see all these movies. Obviously they're going to just hit the characters they like. Not everyone knows who Thor is, especially because it's a little bit crazier of a story. It's not as grounded in reality as Batman, Iron Man, something else. But at least they're trying to lower the expectations of, okay, we're not trying to aim for the stars of a $100 million opening weekend. If it makes its budget back, that means we can make another one and keep going to the Avengers and keep going after that. So even though it's not a huge success, it's still a little bit, well. It also opened same weekend as a couple wedding movies, Something Borrowed and Jumping the Broom, aimed at very, very different audiences. One was aimed at the minority, and one was aimed at anyone who watches, The Office or House, considering it had those stars of those shows on it. It was really weird that they opened the same movie on the same weekend like that. Because if you're going to have a same genre at all, and both movies being about weddings is definitely in the same genre, you had to expect that they were both going to do identical business, because instead of people being able to go to just the one, business was split between the two. They both opened to about $15 million each, and they both trickled out around $40 million. So pretty much they performed like every other romantic counter-marketing movie that has been released at the beginning of the summer to compete with the big blockbuster. However, one of the biggest bombs so far of the season is definitely the movie Priest, which came out the following week after Thor. Was also in 3D, just like Thor. I think most theaters only showed it in 3D for one weekend. It ended up only making about $15 million in its opening weekend, and it has fallen off the earth really, really fast. It's barely cracked $30 million. With its worldwide gross, it did barely cross its budget, but it's definitely one that they shouldn't have wasted the money on converting it to 3D. It was originally just going to be put out regularly until they decided, well, yeah, we're going to bump it to the summer and try and get more money. Obviously, this year is starting to show that sometimes that let's get every last dollar we can mentality does not pay off for studios in the long run. And while Priest, unfortunately, suffered from the typical curse of the second weekend at the summer box office, there was another movie that opened opposite it that has proven itself to be one of the biggest hits so far and just continues to keep growing. But we'll have to save that for tomorrow because we're out of time. So be sure to check back as we'll have a breakdown of the rest of the summer. We'll let you know what the breakout comedy hits have been so far. And we'll also have coverage of how the Pirates and the Pandas and the X-Men have been doing as well. But be sure to make time to come back for us tomorrow. For the Daily Dizzle, I'm Tommy Dizzlemits. We'll see you then.